or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hi, this is Chuck Stevens, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the July 1st issue of the Batavia Daily News on the Niagara Frontier radio reading service. And of course, it's hot, and there's an extreme heat warming and another round of heat advisories issued for the Glow region. The extreme heat warning will be in effect noon Wednesday to 8 p.m. Friday in Orleans and Livingston counties. Dangerously hot conditions with heat index values as high as 105 are expected. Extreme heat and humidity will significantly increase the potential for heat-related illnesses, particularly for those working or participating in outdoor activities, said forecasters at the National Weather Service in Buffalo. Hot temperatures and high humidity may cause heat-related illnesses to occur. 2 separate heat advisories have also been issued for noon Wednesday to 8 p.m. Friday for the remainder of the Glow region. The first advisory includes Genesee and Northern Erie counties. Heat index values as high as 105 degrees are expected. The second advisory includes Wyoming and Southern Erie counties. Heat index values as high as 100 degrees are expected. Drink plenty of fluid, stay in an air-conditioned room, stay out of the sun, and check up on relatives and neighbors, the National Weather Service advises. Young children and pets should never be left unattended in vehicles under any circumstances, they said. Vehicle interiors can reach lethal temperatures within a matter of minutes in extreme heat. National Weather also advises reschedule strenuous activities to early morning or evening when possible. Know the signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat stroke. Wear lightweight and loose-fitting clothing when possible. To reduce risk during outdoor work, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration recommends scheduling frequent rest breaks in shaded or air-conditioned environments. Anybody overcome by heat should be moved to a cool and shaded location. Heat stroke is an emergency, and people should call 911 when it occurs. Libraries in Wyoming County are available as cooling centers during regular hours, according to the Wyoming County Health Department. They include the Arcade Free Library, the Cordelio A. Green Library in Castile, the Eagle Free Library, Perry Public Library, Pike Library, Stevens Memorial Library in Attica, the Town of Gainesville Public Library in Silver Springs, and the Wyoming Free Circulating Library. Those interested are advised to check with their respective library for open hours. Warsaw Public Library is also listed as available, but reopens July 7th after a major reconstruction project. Our next story, New York opens $30 million tariff relief program for farmers. New York has launched a $30 million program offering payments to farmers affected by tariffs. The Agricultural Resiliency Against Tariffs program will provide between $1,000 to $25,000 to eligible producers. The program has 2 tracks for producers, with one designated for dairy farms. The other track includes aquaculture, livestock products, and specialty crops. Producers must fill out an application, which is available at the agricultural.newyork.gov website. The deadline for applications August 11th. Governor Kathy Hochul proposed the creation of the Tariff Relief Program in response to how New York farmers were affected by President Donald Trump's trade policy. The Trump administration has imposed tariffs on several counties, and many of these countries have instituted retaliatory tariff. The consequence of those trade actions have been felt by New York's agricultural producers. Hochul's office explained that more than 80% of agrochemical imports and 70% of farm machinery imports are from countries facing U.S. tariffs. The tariffs increase costs for farmers to obtain these products. The wine industry has also been affected by the trade wars. After Trump imposed tariffs on Canada, the Canadian government placed a tariff on wine from the U.S. Canadian provinces, also took action that limited market access to U.S. producers, including wineries in New York. According to Hochul's office, New York wine exports to Canada decreased by 77% in 2025. The tariffs imposed by the Trump administration are reckless and damaging to so many of our industries, including our agricultural producers, who rely so heavily on the forces of international markets, Hochul said in a statement. I promise to stand up and fight for our farmers, and I'm proud that our agricultural resiliency against tariffs program will provide that much-needed relief to New York farmers who feed our communities. Agricultural groups support the launch of the tariff program. A.J. Wormuth, chair of the Northeast Dairy Producers Association and a dairy farmer in Elbridge, highlighted the benefits of the program for dairy farmers. We work in a global marketplace and rely heavily on the export of dairy products to support the price we receive for the milk we produce, Wormuth explained. With no control over milk pricing and rising input costs on top of lower prices, the economic squeeze is difficult for many farms to grapple with. This relief program, along with other ongoing initiatives, will help support the competitiveness of New York dairy farms. For more info about the tariff relief program, including the application, available at agricultural.newyork.gov. In local news from the Batavia Daily News, Leroy graduates embrace challenges and pursue life. The next generation of doctors, teachers, engineers, service members, lawyers, and professional athletes has emerged from Leroy. Seniors walked the stage, earned their diplomas, and were sent off to pursue their next chapter in life during Saturday's Leroy High School graduation. The soon-to-be graduates filed into the high school auditorium one by one, with senior Skylar Knoll singing the national anthem after they assembled on stage. You have been motivated throughout your high school career, and you need to stay motivated, said Board of Education President Jackie Whitting. We can all struggle with motivation, worrying, contemplating, or overthinking problems that will not actually solve the problem, waiting around hoping something changes. Ignore the anxiety, she continued. Save the excuses. Disregard the fear. Push through all of those through motivated actions that will accomplish your goals. That includes establishing a healthy mindset, not wasting time or focusing on things out of their control. Focus on what truly matters. That's you, she said. Your happiness, your goals, your life. You have the power to create a life that makes you proud, a life that makes you happy. Yeager Smith and Elise Fisher spoke during the ceremony. Smith discussed how it's common to fear change in life, but challenged his peers to make the most of it. Eventually, we will all change, and for the class of 2026, our eventuality starts today, Smith said. Every single one of us on stage will be stepping into a brand new environment. Whether it's going off to college, joining the workforce, or joining the military, all of our lives will be different. It's up to us to make the most of the upcoming change. Fisher used the changing of the seasons between spring, summer, fall, and winter to speak on the many different seasons of life each graduating senior has experienced, and how that has helped each person grow into the person they are today. Each season will serve the necessary purpose in supporting the plant's life and maximizing crop yield, she said. Just like crops, we too experience seasons in our life. Seasons of rest during summer break or holidays when we spend time with family and friends, she continued. Seasons of preparation while studying for the SAT or college applications. Seasons of disappointment when we fell short of a goal. Seasons of growth develop when you learn a new skill or how to navigate a friendship, she said. The seasons of celebration are for when hard work and dedication have paid off and the students got to walk across the stage. Each season was a central part of us as individuals. We recognize our strengths and weaknesses and uncovered passions and dislikes, Fisher said. Just as seasons shape who we are, the individual communities we built here, whether in sports, band, the arts, musical, or clubs, contribute to what we become. Each one of them gave a sense of home in our respective spaces. In closing, Fisher asked all of her peers to embrace all the future seasons they will have in life, and do so with joy and confidence. In all things, do them with joy, she said. Each season may not be the best one, but it's essential for your growth. So as we leave here today, may we embrace every season that lies ahead, whether it brings growth, challenge, rest, or harvest, and wherever life plants us, may we have the courage to bloom. The seniors then lined up for the biggest moment of the day, with Athletic Director Jamie Clark reading the names of each graduate and high school principal Thomas Kopp handing each student their diploma. The ceremony was ended by closing remarks from Superintendent Merritt Holley. He said that while he was more than happy to see all the success the class of 2026 experienced during their time at Leroy, he was most proud of how each of them handled times of disappointment. These moments often become our greatest teachers, he said. Success is rewarding. I see that from you guys when you have that success. But setbacks build resilience. They teach us humility, perseverance, and determination. They remind us that growth doesn't happen when everything goes according to plan. Holly reminded the graduates that perseverance is key and that they are never walking that path alone. He ended up by emphasizing that the graduating seniors are forever a part of the Leroy community. Here in Leroy, we believe in one simple truth. Once an Oaken night, always an Oaken night. Our next article, Trailtown Grants Boost Projects in 3 Glow Communities. Funding aids in preservation, accessibility efforts. New historical interpretive signage, safety improvements to a popular village park, and improved access to a local landmark. These are just some of the projects completed or planned in 3 Glow region municipalities that will benefit from a share of nearly $60,000 in grant funding. 6 municipalities, including Avon and Mount Morris in Livingston County, and Perry in Wyoming County, received grants. The funding is provided by the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation and distributed by Parks and Trails New York. The awards to Avon, Mount Morris, and Perry totaled $34,377, or nearly 60% of the $59,999 presented. The grants are intended to boost local economies by leveraging visitation to nearby greenway trails and public lands. The new Trailtown grants, first announced in April, were presented Thursday during an event at the Cobblestone Wedding Barn, a converted Wells Barn on River Road in Scottsville. These projects are the result of the work of dedicated community leaders, mayors, supervisors, town boards, and planning boards, or just dedicated local advocates. I know so many folks in the room who have given so much time and energy to make their community a better place, said Dylan Carey, Director of Policy and Planning for Parks and Trails New York. We are all about breaking down barriers to allow people of all ages and ability to enjoy outdoors. The village of Avon was awarded $15,000 for parking lot improvements at the 5 Arch Bridge trailhead, including prep work and asphalt installation to provide safe access and egress for users of the 5 Arch Bridge Avon Driving Park trails. 5 Arch Bridge Park is one of our most historic and iconic public spaces, said Avon Mayor Rob Hayes. The bridge itself is majestic, a landmark that connects us not only to our geography, but to our history, our identity, and our future. Hayes noted how generations of residents and visitors have come to the park. With the support of PTNY, we were able to kickstart a new round of improvements at 5 Arch Bridge Park, he said. The paving and installation of stone barriers have been completed. These improvements are practical, but they are also symbolic, Hayes said. They show care, pride, and respect for a place that means so much for Avon. The grant will also allow the village to undertake a more native and natural landscaping cleanup and replanting effort, so the park better reflects and enhances the beauty of its surroundings. The additional work is expected to begin this summer and be completed in time for a 5K and cycle challenge in the fall. The cycle challenge will start in Scottsville and end in Avon, with just a single road crossing. Both events will end at the 5 Arch Bridge, providing a chance to connect communities and highlight funded projects, said Carl Schoenthal, president of the Friends of the Genesee Valley Greenway. Without the funding, we would be really limited, Hayes said in an interview after the presentations. The grants have been such an enabler to begin the thought process for specific projects and also get a vision to see what we can do to expand access to our community. The Village of Mount Morris received $14,553 to improve safety and accessibility in its pocket park at routes 36 and 408, adjacent to the Genesee Valley Greenway. The village plans to replace deteriorated surfaces with a durable brick paver walkway and repairing structural walls. The improvements will create a more welcoming and inclusive gathering space for the community. Now, the park, which hosts a Christmas tree dedication annually in December, is in need of repairs to make it safer, such as relayering of historic bricks that have become uneven and a retaining wall, according to Mayor Kelly Bacon and Deb Bump. The goal is to make the park more appealing to those with mobility issues, they said. We want people to be able to use it more and to use it for years to come, said Bacon. The project, she said, is a costlier effort, and this is a great start. Without the grant, a village like us would be challenged to fund a project like this. With the grant, the village is able to make these kind of things possible and do it in a faster timeline. The Village of Perry was awarded $4,824 for beautification efforts along the Silver Lake Trail, including new historical interpretive signage and improved seating. The roughly 2-mile multi-use trail connects each end of the Village of Perry and runs through downtown to Perry Public Beach and Silver Lake. The trail, first discussed in 2009, has been in active development for a decade, taking advantage of grants to expand and enhance the trail. The trail includes landscaping, street furniture, and public art at key nodes. We're doing a lot with the trail, and it connects to a beautiful downtown hub, said Steve Deaton, the village superintendent of public works. The sign, which the village is waiting to be made, will go at a landing spot in the village. It will help connect the trail with the history of the location, Deaton said. It will continue to draw on the expansion of the trail. Today, the trail can be enjoyed for 1.4 miles between the village's public beach, with a trailhead at 42 Walker Road, all the way to a creekside segment behind Main Street that can be accessed from a public parking area behind 22 South Main Street. The total trail length runs about 2.1 miles. Ultimately, the goal is to connect the trail to Letchworth State Park, a project that would involve coordination with multiple municipalities and private landowners. Carey of Parks and Trails New York said greenways can be major drivers of economic values, and related trails and outdoor recreation can support local economies. He cited a recent Empire State Trail study that showed the trail generated a $1.87 billion in economic value to the state. The Greenway is not part of that trail, but Carey said the economic benefits can still be found on smaller scales. We can use that work to really strengthen the work you all do to make places more walkable and accessible. Carey also noted the value of placemaking or reimagining and reinventing public spaces as the heart of communities. Main Street and parks are places that make our communities what they are, he said. These grants are one of the mechanisms we are able to do to support these projects that help this effort. Hayes, the Avon mayor, said during his remarks that he appreciates that the PTNY work is not limited to one type of project or one type of community. He noted that in Avon, past PTNY-supported grants have helped the village purchase and install trail signage, horse hitch posts, a new kiosk and outdoor water stations for pets and humans, and a pet waste station at the Erie Attica Trail. All these amenities enhance trail users' experience, as well as direct users to our downtown area, which increases economic vitality, Hayes said. That is exactly the kind of work that strengthens communities from the ground up. He said these examples are why the partnership with PTNY means so much. You are helping communities like ours turn vision into action, Hayes said, You're helping us preserve what is historic, improve what is practical, and create public spaces that invite people to stay, explore, and come back again. Other awards went to the town of Belfast, Allegheny County, $15,000 to improve connectivity between the Genesee Valley Greenway and the town core with wayfinding and safety signage, an info kiosk, new bike racks, and an interactive engagement rubbing station project featuring trailside plates and a reward system hosted at the local library to encourage town exploration. In the village of Brockport in Monroe County, $3,600 to develop and print new brochures to be distributed from the village's Welcome Center. The materials will contain information about Brockport's connections to the Erie Canalway Trail and other recreational opportunities. And in Scottsville in Monroe County, $7,022 for placemaking signage identifying 3 municipal parks and the creation of a pollinator garden at Canawagas Park. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the Batavia Daily News. Here on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, Chuck Stevens, your reader. Lots of ways to listen to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, by the way. Maybe the easiest is on our free mobile app. Download it at your Apple or Google Play Store with easy access to the Listen Live stream and, of course, all the podcasts. Our next story from the Batavia Daily News, the Perry Community Band kicks off the summer season next week. Perry Community Band preparing for a uniquely American summer of music, and the 52-member ensemble is kicking it off next week at Silver Lake. This summer's 5-part concert series will begin at 7 Friday, July 10th, at the Blue Dock in the Silver Lake Institute, 46 Wesley Road, Silver Lake. On the program will be the work of American composers of all eras and genres, from John Philip Sousa and Albert Stossel to Hoagie Carmichael and W.C. Handy, to George M. Cohan and Jim Morrison. The performances will feature marches, jazz, blues, show tunes, rock and roll, and more. A fitting musical tribute to the U.S., says the band's director, Ray Sorani. Like the music it performs, the band is its own long-standing but ever-changing tradition. From what I've found out in research, the band started out as a cornet band back in the 1890s, maybe even earlier than that, Suriani said. It was something that was really popular. A lot of small towns had their own cornet bands and brass bands at that particular time. Throughout the years, it changed quite a bit to a military band in the early 1900s, and then faded away for a while and came back again, I would say back in the 1990s. Suriani, a former band director at Warsaw Central School District, joined as director in 2020 when previous director Jesse Barth moved out of state. Since that time, the band has grown to an ambitious 52-musician group, with performers from Wyoming, Livingston, Genesee, Monroe, and Allegheny counties, and student musicians from the Warsaw area, Letchworth, York, Leroy, and Churchville-Chili school districts. Besides its summer concerts, the band performs Christmas concerts each year in Perry, which consistently draw strong attendance, Suriani said. He plans to continue the group's ascent next year by commissioning an original composition from composer Robert Sheldon, whose music will also feature in this summer's performances. It's a nice nucleus that started with Jesse, and I knew several other musicians when I took over, so I encouraged them to join. A lot of my former students are in there as well, and some former colleagues. The group is really well-formed and a mature musicianship type of group. It's not just what people think of as a community band. You know, we get 10, 15 people together and play a couple of pieces. It's not like that whatsoever. We can easily compete with any of the other area bands, but we're the only one that's from Wyoming County. And even though we are established in Wyoming County, we have other people from 5 counties who are joining us. Besides the July 10th concert, the band will perform at 7 p.m. Saturday, July 18th in Wyoming Village Park, 3 South Academy Street, at 6:30 p.m. Friday, July 31st, besides the log cabin at Geneseo Village Park, 132 Main Street. At 6 p.m. Wednesday, August 19th, at the Leicester Village Park at the corner of routes 20A and 36. And at 6:30 p.m. Tuesday, September 1st, at the Charcoal Corral, 7037 Chapman Avenue in Perry. The Geneseo concert marks the band's first performance in the village. Admission to all concerts, it's free, though attendees are advised to bring chairs. Our next article from the Batavia Daily News, a Cheektowaga woman guilty of vehicular assault. A Cheektowaga woman has pleaded guilty to charges in a 4-count indictment against her for driving drunk and colliding with another car head-on, seriously injuring a person. Patricia Reynolds, age 43, pleaded guilty last week in Wyoming County Court to aggravated vehicular assault and second-degree assault. Sentencing was set for August 27th. The first charge is a Class C felony, punishable by up to 15 years in state prison. Reynolds was driving a Dodge Ram east on Route 20A in Orangeville about 5:15 p.m., January 8th, when she crossed the center line and hit a Chevy Silverado head-on. Reynolds and the other driver were seriously injured. Police at the time said Reynolds had multiple bottles of alcohol in her car. Also in county court, Nathaniel Grantham, 21, of Perry, sentenced to 364 days in Wyoming County Jail for second-degree rape and unlawful dealing with a child. He admitted to giving a girl under 15 alcohol and then having sex with her. Judge Donald O'Green said Grantham will have to register as a sex offender. Justin J. Neiman, age 39, of Machias, entered a not guilty plea to an indictment charging him with intimidating a witness/victim, DWI, aggravated unlicensed operation, leaving the scene of an incident without reporting, no insurance, and no inspection. Haley L. Tucker, age 23, of Perry, sentenced to 364 days in jail for attempted assault and endangering the welfare of a child. She hit a 4-year-old child in the face while in the parking lot of a Perry business. The assault was caught on surveillance camera. She was caring for her partner's child at the time. Javier Castillo of Warsaw was sentenced to 4 years in state prison for third-degree criminal possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell. Jamie S. Kraft, age 40, of Warsaw, sentenced to 364 days in jail for attempted assault. Mark Jones of Attica waived indictment on charges of attempted disseminating indecent materials to a minor and endangering the welfare of a child, and pleaded guilty to the first count. He'll be sentenced on September 10th. Next up from the Batavia Daily News, the opinion page. The following, written by Bloomberg Opinion: hidden risks lurk in property tax cuts. A home that gains value is part of the American dream, except for the taxes. In the past 2 years, 17 states have lowered or limited property taxes as politicians respond to escalating prices. The idea is seductive, particularly for longtime residents who benefit most. But just as the perfect home can contain serious hidden flaws, under-examined tax reforms can distort the housing market, deplete budgets, and sap local autonomy. One current example is Florida. As its population has surged over the past decade, home prices and property levies have more than doubled. Taxes have jumped 40% since 2023, just 2 years after adding an inflation adjustment to exemptions on primary residences, called homesteads. The state is now seeking voter approval to quintuple the benefit and empower the legislature to increase it even further, potentially eliminating some homeowners' taxes altogether. Well, that certainly sounds appealing, yet California provides a cautionary tale. In 1978, voters fed up with their own tax inflation approved Proposition 13, which limited rates to 1% of a property's assessed value at the time of purchase, and capped annual increases at 2%. The result was a warped housing market, with homeowners locked into a valuable tax subsidy, limiting supply and raising prices. Warren Buffett has noted that his Laguna Beach mansion was taxed at a fraction of what he paid each year on his more modest Omaha home. The fiscal consequences, moreover, were severe. Local governments lost more than half of their property tax revenue, leading to increased fees and other taxes. They also became highly dependent on Sacramento, which meant they had less control over spending and volatile levels of support. Today, even with the highest state income tax rate, California's finances are a mess. The recent spate of tax measures aren't identical to Proposition 13, but they rhyme. If enacted, Florida's proposal is estimated to cost counties an average of $4.8 billion a year. Borrowing costs could rise as credit ratings suffer. George Cruz, a Republican on the Manatee County Commission south of Tampa, told Bloomberg News, "We can make anything work. We'll just have to charge a fee for literally everything." Which raises a crucial point. As hated as they may be, property taxes are the least economically damaging way to raise revenue. Florida, which already lacks income or estate taxes, will either need to cut budgets or rely on more regressive sales and businesses' levies to keep up with spending needs. It's a big gamble, especially when the federal government is intent on pushing costs for health care and disaster relief onto the states. Politicians rightly sense that voters are dissatisfied on this issue. But the prudent response isn't to abolish property taxes and hope for the best. Better to adopt a more constructive agenda. As home values rise, for instance, communities that feel overtaxed can push local authorities to reduce the so-called millage rate to slow property tax increases and better align local revenue with outlays. They might also apply circuit breakers to households that have unusually high tax liabilities relative to income, thereby shielding the elderly or otherwise vulnerable. The goal should be targeted relief. With focused reforms of this kind, local governments can help poorer homeowners and protect local budgets while still maintaining independence from the state capital. After all, while a tax revolt helped fuel the American Revolution more than 250 years ago, the nation's founding principle has always been self-determination, not just lower cost. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the Batavia Daily News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Content is available on demand, by the way, at all major podcast platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Music, Spotify, they're on all of them. Thanks for listening. Our next article from the health page of the Batavia Daily News: early onset cancers are on the rise. Knowing your family history is crucial. Bryce Ramsey of Madison, Mississippi, was 33 when she was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. Upon noticing blood in her stool, she blamed the hemorrhoid she'd developed after delivering her son 8 years earlier. Ramsey didn't initially link her symptoms to cancer. But I had just made a deal with myself because the blood was starting to become more frequent, she said. I was like, if this happens the next time I go to the bathroom, I'm going to make a call. She saw more blood and she reached out to a gastrointestinal clinic to get it checked just in case. Her doctor said she normally wouldn't scope someone Ramsey's age, but something in my gut is just telling me I need to do so, Ramsey recalled. And thank God she did, because she found a 5-centimeter polyp. Ramsey had surgery enduring chemotherapy and survived stage 3 colon cancer. Now, age 40, she volunteers for the Colorectal Cancer Alliance, a nonprofit advocacy group to raise awareness of early onset colorectal cancer. Stories like hers are becoming increasingly common. In the U.S., more than a dozen kinds of cancer are on the rise in adults under 50. Among these early onset cancers, colorectal and breast cancers have increased the most. And colorectal cancer is now the deadliest cancer for Americans age 18 to 49. Well, here's what to know about detecting early onset cancers. Family history is one of the most important risk factors. Researchers have not been able to find a single cause for the rise in early onset cancers. Instead, research suggests a myriad of factors play a role, including obesity, heavy alcohol use, environmental factors such as microplastics, and disruptions to gut health. Doctors generally follow population-level guidelines for routine screenings, such as recommending mammograms starting at age 40 to screen for breast cancer. But physicians might recommend some patients get screenings as early as in their 20s. Doctors weigh a patient's personal risks, including their family history of cancer. Ramsey learned only after her diagnosis that her grandfather previously had colorectal cancer. If I would have known that I had a significant family history, I would have scoped a lot younger, she said. My doctor said my tumor had probably been growing for 7 to 10 years. After her diagnosis, she encouraged her father, aunt, and brother to get screened. All three were diagnosed with colon cancer too, and survived after receiving treatment. Ramsey said it can be uncomfortable to urge family members to get tested or to talk with them about private health information, but those conversations are worth having to save a life. Just ask the question or make a joke about it, and sometimes just little icebreakers will help, she said. Report unusual symptoms as quickly as possible. Being vigilant about unusual body changes or symptoms and reporting those to your physician gives doctors the information they need to determine your personal risk for cancer. For example, a lump in the breast, abdominal pain, changes in bowel habits that really are not going away, said oncologist Veta Giari, director of the Early Onset Cancer Program at Yale Cancer Center. Certainly blood in the stools, sometimes even symptoms such as unusual fatigue that doesn't seem to go away. It's incredibly important to bring symptoms to your doctor. Talk, then test, then talk again. Ads for at-home cancer tests are everywhere, so you might be tempted to use a screening kit instead of going in for an office visit or a standard screening like a colonoscopy. But not all tests are created equal, Giari said. It can be hard for lay people to understand the accuracy of at-home screening kits, so they should talk to their doctor first. Some of these tests could lead to a false sense of either reassurance or false anxiety and alarm, she said. For people who decide to move forward with an at-home test, experts say they still need to consult with a physician. If you get any sort of abnormal result, your doctor is going to want to follow up with additional testing, such as a colonoscopy. Sharing your results, regardless of outcome, will help inform your care. The U.S. Preventative Services Task Force recently changed the recommended age of women to begin mammogram screenings for breast cancer from 50 to 40. But there's a difference of opinion among national advocacy and medical groups about whether regular screening should happen every year or every other year. In 2021, the same task force lowered the recommended age to 45 for a first colonoscopy for colon cancer detection for people with average risk. Establishing a relationship with a trusted medical practitioner can help patients assess personal risk and sort through new information as research and public health guidance evolve. If you feel uncertain about your personal risk for cancer or when you should start cancer screenings, one of the best ways to advocate for your health is to establish a relationship with a medical practitioner you trust and ask specifically about your cancer's risk. You can also ask to consult with a genetic cancer risk specialist, a type of medical provider who helps patients evaluate their cancer risk, often with genetic testing. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Chuck Stevens reading the Batavia Daily News. By the way, you can listen to our live stream on our website anytime at nfradioreading.org. Well, as we all know, the heat is here, and it's quite something. Beating the heat, 3 summer safety reminders. Summers in upstate New York are full of joyful activities, such as bonfires, pool days, and lakeside fun. While enjoying sunny days and warm nights, it's important to remember to stay safe. University of Rochester medicine physician and professor of clinical medicine, Louis Papa, MD, shares tips to help protect you and your family all summer long. Stroke versus exhaustion. Know the difference. With heat exhaustion, early signs are fatigue, nausea, lightheadedness, and dizziness. If you notice any of these symptoms, get out of the sun as soon as possible. More symptoms of heat exhaustion include headache, dizziness or fainting, sweating, cold clammy skin, increased heart rate, weakness, muscle cramps, excessive thirst. With heat stroke, that occurs when the body can no longer control its temperature. Heat stroke is a more critical condition than heat exhaustion and requires immediate medical attention. Signs of a heat stroke include headache, confusion or delirium, loss of consciousness, lack of perspiration, hot, red, dry skin, nausea or vomiting, rapid heart rate, elevated body temperature. Very young children and elderly adults are more vulnerable to severe reactions to heat-related illnesses. Pay extra attention to them and seek medical help at the first sign of any symptom, Papa says. What should I do if someone shows signs of heat exhaustion or heat stroke? If someone is experiencing heat exhaustion, get them out of the sun and the heat. Lay them down to help them cool down. Apply cool compresses and cool blankets. If it's safe enough for them, encourage a cool shower. Should they drink water? If someone is very confused, only give them small sips of water. If you suspect heat stroke, do not try to give them water, as they could choke on it. Ensure the person understands your instructions before offering them water. If someone demonstrates symptoms of heat stroke, call 911 or head to the nearest emergency department. Safety first, swimming and water safety. Whether at the lake, the ocean, or the pool, don't forget that water brings new risks for children and families. Papa reminds us that swim toys are simply that, toys. Papa recommends that all folks wear a life jacket in the water instead. Always remember to use the buddy system. Even strong swimmers should have someone with them in case of an emergency. Be aware of the environment, including ocean and river currents, vegetation, water temperature, and shallow water. Always swim sober. Wear a life jacket. When participating in water activities and boating, always take safety precautions. Fire safety, bonfires, grilling, and preventing burns. There's nothing like the smell of a summer bonfire, but a friendly fire can flare up in an instant if you aren't careful. Here are Dr. Papa's fire safety must-dos. Placement is key. Make sure nothing is nearby that could catch fire. Avoid wood structures and look out for vegetation around and above the flames. Eliminate fall risks. Clear the area of anything that could cause someone to trip and fall into the fire. Pay attention. There should always be one or two people monitoring the bonfire. These folks should remain sober and attentive to the fire, all attendees and all surroundings. What should I do if someone gets burned? Burn injuries should be addressed immediately, and appropriate treatment depends on their severity. For minor superficial burns, those with some redness but no blistering, cool the affected area under running water for about 20 minutes. Avoid ice, butter, oils, or ointments as they can further damage the skin. After cooling, gently clean the area and cover it with a clean, dry bandage. Those with superficial burns should consider evaluation by their primary care physician if symptoms don't improve. When to seek emergency care for a burn. If a burn is severe and shows signs of blistering, bleeding, or white or charred skin, seek immediate medical attention. Burns larger than the size of your hand with white or charred skin should be evaluated in an emergency department. Call 911 if the injury is life-threatening. So here's your summer safety checklist. Stay hydrated and take breaks from the heat. Apply sunscreen regularly. Know the signs of heat illness. Heat stroke is a medical emergency. Wear life jackets and never swim alone or under the influence. Keep bonfires away from structures and vegetation, and keep water nearby. Cool minor burns with running water. Seek emergency care for burns that blister, bleed, appear white or charred, or are larger than the size of your hand. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from the Batavia Daily News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Pretty active police blotter in this edition. In Batavia, City Police charged the following people. Daniel P. Frey, 43, Batavia, charged with second-degree burglary, petty larceny, and falsely reporting an incident. He's accused of breaking into a vacant residence on Porter Avenue and stealing ammunition. He falsely reported to police how he got possession of the ammunition. Paul W. Zeckis, 37, of Batavia, charged with failure to report a change of address as a registered sex offender. He is a level 2 offender. Rosemary R. Waters, 40, of Batavia, was charged with resisting arrest, obstruction of a governmental administration, and misdemeanor criminal possession of a controlled substance. She struggled with officers when they tried to charge her on a warrant. Michael A. Sweet, age 40, of Batavia, was charged with misdemeanor drug possession and aggravated unlicensed operation. Stanley T. Hooker, age 34, of Albion, was charged with a misdemeanor drug possession and aggravated unlicensed operation. Jennifer L. Button, age 41, of Batavia, charged with criminal contempt of court, resisting arrest, obstruction, and harassment for violating an order of protection and throwing an object at police. In Warsaw, a Wethersfield man was charged June 12th after investigation of a roadside domestic incident on Route 19 in Wyoming County, according to the sheriff's deputies. Marky McClefrish III, age 23, made physical contact with a person in violation of an order of protection. Deputies said a 7-year-old child was allegedly present. McClefrish was charged with first-degree criminal contempt and endangering the welfare of a child. He is set to appear in Warsaw Town Court at a later date. Around the nation now, the Supreme Court ends Trump's birthright citizenship change. The Supreme Court Tuesday wiped out President Trump's executive order seeking to redefine birthright citizenship, an effort to restrict American citizenship without Congress that cut against more than a century of legal precedents. The 6-3 decision, with Chief Justice John G. Roberts, Jr. writing a 5-justice majority opinion, backed a challenge to the order, which would disallow citizenship for children born in the United States to undocumented immigrant parents or those with temporary legal status. Roberts wrote that the 14th Amendment to the Constitution granted birthright citizenship to anyone born in the United States. Citizenship then and now was the right to have rights, to freely participate in our political community. The framers of the 14th Amendment extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land, Roberts wrote. We keep that promise today. States and others challenging the executive order have said in court filings that it could strip citizenship from hundreds of thousands of children each year. Experts said the ruling could confine Congress's power to define who is considered part of the nation. A portion of the 14th Amendment provides that all people born in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are eligible to be citizens. The decision Tuesday said that clause meant citizenship applied to everyone born in the country outside certain specific exceptions. The decision cited a more than 100-year-old Supreme Court decision where the majority found that an American-born man, Wong Kim Ark, was a citizen even though his parents were born in China. Justice Brett Kavanaugh joined the overall judgment in the case, but dissented on Roberts' view of the constitutionality of birthright citizenship. Trump's executive order violated federal immigration law, which has a definition of birthright citizenship, Kavanaugh said. However, Kavanaugh argued that Congress still has the power to change the citizenship rules. Consistent with the 14th Amendment, Congress could amend 1401A or otherwise enact new legislation establishing exceptions to birthright citizenship for children born to foreign citizens unlawfully or temporarily in the country, but Congress has not yet done so, Kavanaugh wrote. Republicans in Congress have for years sought to end birthright citizenship through legislation. Senators Lindsey Graham, the Republican from South Carolina, and Katie Britt, the Republican from Alabama, have sponsored a bill in the current Congress to do so. The bill is not advanced. Representative Chip Roy, a Republican from Texas, said in a news release Tuesday that Congress must act immediately to counter the decision defining citizenship as tied to the parent and not the soil and using appropriations to enforce it. The 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution in no way stands for the proposition of creating a dangerous cottage industry of traveling to our soil to manufacture United States citizenship. That's insane, Roy said. The decision in the birthright citizenship case Tuesday will almost certainly increase the tension between the Supreme Court and the Trump administration. Trump himself has spent months fuming about an earlier decision by the justices that tossed his global tariff regime on the grounds that Congress did not give him the power to do so. In April, Trump posted that Republican appointees to the court don't stick together and blamed them for siding with Democratic appointees and killing his tariff regime. He also complained about nasty one-sided questions on the country-destroying subject of birthright citizenship, something which virtually no other country in the world is stupid enough to allow. That's not true. There's 32 others. Trump took the unprecedented step of attending the April oral arguments in person. Throughout the court cases, the Trump administration has maintained that the amendment was meant to provide the children of slaves with citizenship and should not apply to the children of people in the country temporarily or illegally. Justice Clarence Thomas, in a dissent, joined by Justice Neil Gorsuch, argued that the 14th Amendment was meant to provide birthright citizenship to the children of former slaves. That clause of the Constitution and the initial Civil Rights Act of 1866 did not mean to cover immigrants without a permanent home in the country. Neither guaranteed citizenship to persons who are not domiciled in the United States, Thomas wrote. Thomas pointed to decades of practice by presidential administrations to deny citizenship to the children of immigrants until the 1890s. Thomas argued that Trump's executive order was consistent with those practices and the Constitution. Justice Samuel A. Alito also filed a dissenting opinion, criticizing the majority for extending citizenship to birth tourists who travel to the U.S. solely to give birth. Alito argued that the millions of people who may be deprived of citizenship due to a change should instead look to Congress for relief. Congress can and should address the situation. The 14th Amendment dictates who must be a citizen, but it does not address who may be a citizen by an act of Congress, Alito wrote. Justice Brown Jackson, joined by Justice Sonia Sotomayor, in part, filed a concurring opinion which argued that the dissenters had a myopic view of the 14th Amendment that was limited to the freedom of children of former slaves. Tuesday's decision was the second time the justices have faced the birthright citizenship order. Last term, when faced with an appeal from the Trump administration, the justices curtailed the ability for lower courts to issue nationwide injunctions. Shortly after that decision, several lower courts reblocked the executive order on different grounds. And the Supreme Court's had a busy week. On Monday, upheld state laws that allow for counting mail ballots that are postmarked by Election Day but arrive later. The 5-4 decision rejects a Republican challenge to laws in California and 13 other mostly Democratic states which permit the counting of those late-arriving ballots. Justice Amy Coney Barrett and Chief Justice John G. Roberts join with the three liberals to form the majority. The decision is a mild surprise and should bolster Democrats in the fall election. While California's 7-day grace period for mail ballots has contributed to slow tabulations, it has not been shown to trigger fraud or unreliable vote counts. Election law experts blame slow tallies on the surge in voting by mail, combined with the need to carefully match signatures on those ballots. The court said federal law since 1845 has set Election Day nationwide as the Tuesday after the first Monday in November, and voters were required to cast their ballots that day. Citing that fact, the Republican National Committee and the Trump administration joined a challenge to a Mississippi law adopted during the COVID-19 pandemic that allowed counting ballots that were up to 5 days late. Trump's lawyers said federal law preempted or overrode the state's law. From the dawn of America, Election Day has meant the day the ballot box closes, and when election officials must be in receipt of all ballots, wrote Solicitor General D. John Sauer. Democrats said the Constitution says the time, place, and manner of holding elections for Congress shall be prescribed in each state by its legislature. However, Congress was given the power to override those state rules and set its own regulations for federal elections. Barrett said the federal election day requires only that the voter must decide by then. The Election Day statutes require the electorate's choice to be made on Election Day. That occurs so long as Election Day is the deadline for individuals to vote, as it is in Mississippi, she wrote. But the Election Day statutes do not set a deadline for ballot receipt, so they do not prevent Mississippi from counting ballots postmarked before Election Day yet received afterwards. While Congress could have prohibited the counting of late-arriving ballots, it had not done so. That may be so because states wanted to count ballots from members of the military stationed overseas even if they arrived late. Last year, however, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans struck down Mississippi's law that allowed for counting ballots that were cast by Election Day but arrived up to 5 days later. The opinion by 3 judges, all Trump appointees, concluded that the Election Day set by Congress is the day by which ballots must both be cast by voters and received by state officials. In its appeal, Mississippi stuck with the state's rights view and argued that the federal Election Day statutes mean that ballots must be cast, not received, by Election Day. And an interesting thing happened at the border as a country star was held at the Canadian border after upstate New York concert. A country star was held at the Canadian border by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol officers after a recent upstate New York concert. Jordan Davis said he was detained Friday night while attempting to travel to Ontario. Davis was the headliner at the Taste of Country Festival earlier that night here in Buffalo when his tour bus was stopped by CBP. "Dude, the 2 cops came up here, pulled me into the Border Patrol station," Davis said in an Instagram video posted Monday. "They're like, I need you to be real serious with me, man. Are you in some trouble in Indiana?" Davis said he told the cops, "No, I've never been arrested." He added, "I was freaking out." Davis, wearing glasses, a long-sleeve shirt, and shorts, was smiling and laughing as he recounted the experience. He thought the officers just wanted pictures of a famous person or were playing a practical joke, but he realized it was serious when they discussed handcuffing him. "I was like, oh dang, and then I just kind of got quiet because they were pretty serious," Davis said. "Bro, but the whole time I was in there, all these people were like coming up in and looking at me, and I was like, damn, I almost got locked up." Davis said the officers asked if he was the country singer and worried he was going to go back and bash us. Davis said he told them it was all good, just let me get out of here. According to the radio station that sponsored the concert, it's not unusual for people crossing the U.S.-Canada border to be stopped for random searches of vehicles or people, but it appears police were specifically looking for a person named Jordan Davis. Some fans commented that public records showed someone with that name wanted for stalking and invasion of privacy in Indiana with a prior conviction. "Somebody in Indiana named Jordan Davis is in trouble," the country singer said. Davis did not say how long he was held at the border, but his video made it clear he was not upset. His video praised the officers for keeping the border safe. "One Jordan Davis at a time. Much love, Canada." Davis, age 38, is a CMA award-winning country singer-songwriter best known for hits like "Singles You Up, Take It From Me," "Slow Dance in a Parking Lot," "Next Thing You Know," "Buy Dirt," and "Bar None." The Louisiana native released his 3rd album, Learn the Hard Way, in August. Davis performed in Windsor, Ontario on Saturday. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the July 1st issue of the Batavia Daily News. We read from the Batavia Daily News every Saturday at 9 a.m. Your reader has been Chuck Stevens. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the East Aurora Advertiser. At 11 o'clock, we have the Niagara Gazette. And at noon, we have... The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability.